Hey folks, welcome, it's OGDuffy and I'm back with another Versus video. Now, this week's Versus video has been suggested by Ian Metcalf. Thank you very much, Ian. He gave me a list quite a while ago, back when these Versus videos were starting to happen, and this was one he suggested back then, so thank you very much for this, Ian. Now, this was a favourite of mine, and it's a game I knew very, very well. Okay, this was from 1987. It was released in the arcades by Taito, and it is the one and only Rastan Saga. Now, some of you may only know this as Rastan, but I do know for Japanese markets and the European market, initially it was released as Rastan Saga. So we're going to call it Rastan Saga because, hey, I'm English, I'm in Britain, and we are still in Europe, albeit only a geographical sense of the manner. Anyway, onwards and upwards. So thank you very much, Ian. Now, before we get into this, if you've got any suggestions at home for future videos, Versus videos you'd like me to check out, then do drop them in the comments and let me know, because we love a bit of debate and conversation, etc. So, 1987. It was a time Dungeons and Dragons was popular. Dungeons and Dragons was huge. We had films like Conan the Barbarian doing his thing. Fantasy was huge at the time. I mean, we had these great sort of fighting fantasy books. Do you guys remember them? I certainly do. Oh, they were great. I loved the artwork on them, funnily enough. No, stop, Rob. No, I'm going to start collecting them. Don't do it. Don't do it. But anyway, for this week's Versus video, we're going to be looking at several systems, okay? So we're going to be looking at the 8-bits. So we're going to have with us the usual suspects, the Commodore 64, the Sinclair ZX Spectrum, and the Amstrad CPC, because we can. But also, as a little bonus, we're also going to look at the SEGA Master System version, alright? Now, when it comes to me giving my verdict at the end of the video, I'm only going to include the free home computer systems because I feel the Master System had a bit of an advantage over the 8-bit home computers, simply because it had the extra sort of cartridge capacity to fill, to, you know, give them a bit more memory for the game and that sort of stuff. So anyway, without further ado, as always, we're going to go take a look at the arcade version first. But before we do, if you don't already do so, please hit that subscribe button. And remember, your comments are valuable to this channel, so let me have your comments. Anyway, we're going to look at the arcade version first, and then we'll swing by and look at them versions I just mentioned. And then at the end, of course, as always, my verdict. Anyway, here we go. Rastan Saga. So this was Rastan Saga by Taito, released in 87. In a nutshell, you're a barbarian, you're on a quest to go and slay a dragon, hey, because all dragons are evil. Basically in this, as you can see, sort of a platformer in a way, run along, kill the enemies and jump at the appropriate times, etc. Was quite a tricky game in the arcades, quite a difficult game, but looked beautiful, had a great little soundtrack running through it, and hey, it was fantasy, and like I said earlier, this was all big at the time, so it worked very well. There was a total of 6 levels with this, with an enemy at the end of each level, and each level was broken down into 3 zones. You could get different weapons, including a mace, axe, sword, and a fireball sword, which was pretty cool. It spit fireballs out the end. So, overall, it was a very good game, thoroughly enjoyable, and one that was obviously a worthy contender to be released onto the 8-bit home systems of the day, because, hey, we knew it was going to be classic and we wanted it. So, hey, give the people what they want. Now, with these versions, I'm going to show the part of the first level, and I'm going to show the boss at the end of the level. There you go, this is the end of level boss on level 1. As you can see, got tougher and tougher as it went on. But all in all, Rastan Saga, a brilliant game. So here we go, next up we're going to take a look at the Commodore 64 version. As you can hear, the SID chip doing its usual job of converting the music to the system. Commodore always did this very, very well. Now, this is controversial, I know, but I'm going to say it anyway. To me, the SID chip here, I don't think was the best I've heard it do. It could have done better, I think. Let me know in the comments, am I right or wrong? Anyway, but still good, you know. I was not really slating it, but I just I felt it could have been tweaked a bit better. This version played well. Graphically, weren't too bad, as you can see. It was bright, stuck well to the arcade, and it was very playable indeed. Again, stuck well to the level of the arcades, and all in all, great fun. We were just desperate for this back in the day anyway, so when it come out on the home systems, obviously we were very, very pleased and happy with it. As you can see now, coming up to the end of level boss, number 1, of course. But this is the C64 version. Let me know in the comments, do you remember this version? Did you own this version? What were your thoughts? That was C64. This is the ZX Spectrums by Sinclair. This is the 128K version we're looking at. Now, the 48K version featured no music and was multi-load for the levels. So this was the 128, didn't feature the multi-load and had the soundtrack running through. Now, firstly, as we're on the soundtrack, this was amazing for the Specky. I loved this soundtrack. They'd done a great conversion here, not just of the game in general, but also the soundtrack completely. As you can see, graphically, the sprites and everything else stuck really well to the arcade. I mean, the enemies and everything else were transferred brilliantly, ported over, lovely. Honestly, this played really, really well. And as you can see, the difference between this one to the C64 is the speed. It played faster, and it was closer to the arcade. Very, very good effort overall. Now, this received awesome reviews back in the day from the magazines, and it should have done as well. I mean, it played brilliantly. The end of level boss here coming up from level 1. It was accurate. The scrolling could get a bit iffy when the screen was a bit too busy with enemies, but apart from that, a great conversion. So now we're looking at the Amstrad CPC. Right, if you just took a screenshot of this, right, without the gameplay movement and all that, it would look very, very good. And you'd be, like, as an Amstrad owner, you'd look at it and think to yourself, bloody hell, that looks alright. Yeah, I'll be buying that. But I tell you what, look at it. It was slow. I mean, really slow version. The scrolling was really, really choppy. As you can hear, there was no music, no soundtrack running throughout, just game sounds. And it was real disappointment, really. I mean, look at it. I mean, as you can see here, it was just so slow. I couldn't get over how slow it was. I'm sure there might have been a remake of this at some point, which a lot of Amstrad sort of fans have gone on to do. And I might be looking into that at a later date and seeing, looking into some remakes and what have you. So if you've got any suggestions, let me know in the comments of any sort of decent remakes of 8-bit games you know that have been done that are a lot better than the originals. So, Amstrad, sorry chaps, but you really did drop the ball on this one. So did you own this on the Amstrad CPC? Do you remember playing this? Maybe you thought I've got it very wrong. But do let me know in the comments. Let's be honest, we can't all have the same opinion, and it's great to have a bit of debate. So let me know in the comments, folks. Do you agree or disagree with my verdict on this one? And moving away from the 8-bits now, well, it was an 8-bit console, but the console version here, we're looking at the SEGA Master System version. As you can see, graphically was really good, played really well. Now, I'm not going to feature the handheld Game Gear version of this, simply because it's exactly the same. They ported it over and it was released in Japan only, the Game Gear version of this, to my knowledge. But hey, you guys out there know best. I'm sure if I'm wrong, you will correct me and let me know if that's not the case. But as you can see, it played really well, handled brilliantly, and was a lovely, lovely conversion. Great little bit of soundtrack and everything else also. So, did you own this on the SEGA Master System? I didn't. I think I've got it in my garage, my never-ending collection that is getting unpacked slowly but surely. But this was a great job. Lovely, colourful, big sprites. End-of-level bosses took a bit longer to destroy and a bit more lengthy in the way that they played out. And the level design was different to the arcade. But apart from that, great job, Sega. Well done. So it's now time to give the verdicts of these great games, okay? Saw all the 4 versions there that we're comparing against the arcade version too. Obviously the arcade version was amazing, a great game, really playable and just ticked all the boxes, great soundtrack and everything else. Anyway, before we get into who I've decided as this week's winner, if you don't already do so, please hit that subscribe button, helps me greatly. And of course, comments. Let's have your debate. Let's have your thoughts. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? And if so, why? Also, if your system doesn't get the verdict, please don't be hating on the video. But do let me know in the comments, alright? Because it's great to have some healthy debate. Anyway, let's get to it. Now, I'm going to take a look first. The Master System. It comes into the verdict first. This Master System version, as I said, is not being included, but I threw it in there because it was such a nice conversion. Did a great job of this. It was colourful, played well, the soundtrack was pretty good, and all in all, it was a really good version. Now, as I said right at the beginning, I'm not including it because it has the extra cartridge capacity, which I feel is a bit unfair on the home systems. So, let's get into my verdict on the home systems. Verdict time. In third position, Amstrad CPC. Now, it looked alright, it was bright, it was colourful, but as you can see, it lacked the soundtrack, and that scrolling was a bit iffy, and it was slow. It just played slow. So I'm sorry, Amstrad owners, not here to offend, you can't win it every week. So, hey, you got to take the rough with the smooth. So, third for you this week. And in second position, I gave it to the Commodore 64. Now, this was a really good version. I really enjoyed this one. It scrolled well. I don't think the graphics were as arcade sharp as the Spectrum version. But it scrolled well and it played well. And it was quite good. It had the soundtrack going as well, which was always good. But I don't think this was the SID chip's finest. I think it could have been a little bit polished, a little bit more, and the SID chip could have performed a little bit better than it has done in previous games. Hey, controversial, I know, but again, if you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments. So, of course, in first position this week goes to the ZX Spectrum. Now, this was the 128K version, alright? So, you know, be granted, that might be why it took it. The soundtrack for this, for ZX Spectrum, was a great job. So well done, Specky. I think the graphics were good. You know, and the sprites were nice, and it resembled the arcade, and the levels and everything else were as the arcade were. So it was really a good conversion. This a job well done. If I'd say a negative, when the screen got a bit busy, the scrolling could become a little bit choppy. But that was the only negative. So this week it goes to the ZX Spectrum. So, thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in as always, and remember, if you've got another game suggestion for me, a title, drop it in the comments. Anyway, look after yourselves, have a great week, and see you all real soon. I've been OGDuffy, I'm out. If you watch the video and you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe for more great videos. Thanks for watching.